Hello, dear members of the Loving Truth Stories family. Today, we bring you a romantic story that will stir your heart. So let's dive right in, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss another meaningful tale. It all began with a storm inside the glass walls of Hawthorne Tower. The billionaire CEO slammed open the boardroom doors, mocking everyone in sight, holding a mysterious letter no one could understand. Then, out of nowhere, a woman in a wrinkled cleaning uniform stepped forward. With nothing but quiet confidence, she declared she could solve what the experts couldn't. In that moment, the room froze, the world shifted, and their fates collided in ways no one could have imagined. The marble floor of Hawthorne Tower gleamed beneath the fluorescent lights. Employees in sleek suits whispered nervously as the heavy doors of the executive conference room slammed open. Nathaniel Hawthorne, CEO, Billionaire, a man whose face had graced magazine covers, strode in with the kind of energy that made the room itself tremble. His tailored charcoal suit hung perfectly on his broad frame, his jaw tense, his eyes burning with impatience. In his hand, he clutched a crumpled envelope as if it had insulted him personally. "This," Nathaniel said, his voice sharp as broken glass, "has to be a joke." He tossed the papers onto the polished mahogany table, scattering them across spreadsheets and laptops. The executives froze. No one dared to breathe too loudly. "Anyone here understand this nonsense?" Nathaniel demanded, his tone dripping with disdain. Marissa, his assistant, rose cautiously from her chair. "Sir, I already contacted 4 translation agencies. None of them had anyone available today, not even online." Nathaniel's lips curled. "Useless, all of you." He turned, pacing the length of the room. "A company of this size and no one can translate a single page. Ridiculous." Then, with a mocking laugh, he held up the document. "All right, here's a deal. My entire month's salary, $150,000, to whoever can translate this. Right here, right now." Nervous laughter rippled through the room. Not a soul moved. Nathaniel leaned back against the table, arms crossed, reveling in the silence. "Exactly what I thought. None of you even know what language this is, do you?" He was right. Blank stares filled the room. Someone muttered, "Looks like gibberish." Another whispered, "Some ancient script, maybe." That's when a quiet voice spoke from the back. "I can translate it." The words sliced through the room like a blade. Heads turned. Near the water cooler, wearing a wrinkled pale blue cleaning uniform, stood Monica Bryant. Her dark hair was tied into a messy bun, her face faintly flushed from scrubbing the 25th floor just minutes earlier. In her hand, she clutched a mop handle like a staff. Nathaniel blinked. "What did you just say?" "I said I can translate it," Monica repeated, steady and unshaken. "Those documents are written in Euskara Basque. I understand them." The room erupted with snickers. One of the executives leaned to another, whispering loudly enough for everyone to hear. The cleaning lady's lost her mind. Nathaniel let out a low laugh as though the absurdity amused him. "You expect me to believe that you, a janitor, know Basque?" Monica didn't flinch. She stepped forward, her posture straight, her eyes unwavering. "I expect you to hand me the papers," she said calmly. For the first time, Nathaniel hesitated. Something about the conviction in her gaze unsettled him. Still smirking, he shoved the documents toward her. "Fine, impress me." Monica scanned the page, her eyes moving fluidly line to line. Within seconds, she lifted her head. "This is an inheritance notice," she said, her tone precise. "A woman named Loria Garamendi passed away last month. She was your great-aunt on your mother's side. She left you property and a considerable fortune in Bilbao. The deadline to accept it is today by 5 p.m. After that, it will be redistributed under Basque inheritance law." The room fell deathly silent. Nathaniel froze, his confident smirk faltering. He reached for his phone, his voice suddenly urgent. "Marissa, call the Spanish consulate, now." While she scrambled, the others stared at Monica as if she had just stepped out of another world. The cleaning lady who quietly mopped the hallways every night had just translated what a roomful of executives couldn't. The call confirmed every word she'd said. Nathaniel's knuckles whitened as he hung up. For the first time in years, he felt cornered, exposed. He turned to Monica. "How did you know this?" Her reply was simple, almost defiant. "Because knowledge doesn't wear a suit, Mr. Hawthorne." Whispers filled the room. Some executives try to hide their awe, others their discomfort. But Nathaniel's eyes were fixed on Monica, not with admiration yet, but with something far more dangerous, curiosity. She handed back the papers with dignity, then turned toward the door. "You're welcome," she said softly and walked away, mop bucket rolling beside her. Later that night, in a dimly lit apartment across town, Monica placed her mop in the corner and collapsed into the small armchair. Her son Mateo sat cross-legged on the floor, building towers of colorful blocks. His laughter filled the cramped living room like sunlight. "Mom, look," Mateo beamed. "I built a skyscraper just like downtown." Monica smiled, brushing his dark curls from his forehead. "It's beautiful, my Amor. You'll build real ones someday." He nodded proudly, then grew quiet, his hands fiddling with a toy car. "The teacher said I talked too much today," he mumbled. "You're not too much," Monica whispered, pulling him close. "You're perfect." But deep down, her chest tightened. She knew the truth. Mateo's therapy sessions, his medications, the specialized school, everything cost more than she could keep up with. That's why she took 2 cleaning jobs, why her back ached each night. Because for her there were no luxuries, only survival. Still, today had been different. Today, in that boardroom, she had reminded herself and everyone else that she was more than a mop and a paycheck. Back at Hawthorne Tower, Nathaniel stared out at the city skyline from his office. His reflection in the glass looked back at him, questioning, mocking. A cleaning lady who speaks Basque, who translates legal jargon with flawless precision, who stands in a room full of men and refuses to bow. He hated how the memory of her words lingered. Knowledge doesn't wear a suit. For the first time in years, Nathaniel Hawthorne was intrigued, and curiosity for a man like him was dangerous. The next morning, the halls of Hawthorne Tower buzzed with whispers. Word of the cleaning lady translator had spread like wildfire. Secretaries whispered at coffee machines. Interns exchanged wide-eyed glances, and executives spoke in hushed tones, terrified Nathaniel might overhear. Nathaniel did overhear. He heard everything. Standing by his office window, he tapped his pen against the glass, his thoughts drifting back to the woman who had walked out of his boardroom without hesitation. Monica Bryant. She wasn't just some janitor. He could feel it in his bones. The way she spoke, the certainty in her eyes, the calmness that unsettled him. "Sir," Marissa said carefully as she stepped into the office, "do you want me to file her background report? I can have it by tomorrow morning." Nathaniel didn't look at her. "Today. I want it today." "Yes, Mr. Hawthorne." She vanished instantly, sensing that his patience had limits. On the other side of the city, Monica tugged her jacket tighter as she carried 2 grocery bags up 3 flights of stairs. The building was old, the paint peeling from the walls. the air smelling faintly of damp plaster and fried food. Her neighbor, Mrs. Delgado, peeked out from behind her door, her hair wrapped in rollers. "Mija, you look exhausted." Another double shift. Monica smiled faintly. "Always." The older woman clucked her tongue. "You work too much. That boy of yours needs you more than any boss does." "I know," Monica whispered, shifting the bags to one hand. "But Mateo's therapy doesn't pay for itself." Inside the apartment, Mateo ran to greet her, nearly tripping over his shoelaces. "Mom, guess what? I finished the puzzle all by myself." Monica set the bags down and knelt beside him, kissing his cheek. "I knew you could, sweetheart." His wide grin lit up the room, but behind her smile, Monica's heart ached. She remembered the doctor's words: consistent therapy, specialized schooling, medication. The cost stacked higher than she could ever climb. Yet she climbed anyway, every day, mop in hand, because quitting was not an option. That evening, Nathaniel sat in his office long after most employees had left. The city lights glittered below, but his focus was on the manila folder lying on his desk. Marissa had delivered it hours ago. He flipped it open. Name: Monica Bryant. Age: 29. Background: born in New Mexico. Fluent in Spanish, Basque, and French. Studied linguistics at Columbia University but did not graduate. Employment history: domestic work, cleaning services. Current employer: Midtown Janitorial. Nathaniel frowned. Columbia, he muttered under his breath. Further down the page, something caught his eye: dependent Mateo Bryant, age 7. There was no father listed. Nathaniel leaned back in his chair, the leather creaking. A child. She was raising a child alone. The thought twisted something inside him, something he hadn't felt in years. He had spent his life building an empire, telling himself relationships were weaknesses, distractions. Yet here was this woman, fighting battles he couldn't imagine, carrying more than most men in his world could bear. He closed the folder but couldn't close the questions now clawing at him. Why was she cleaning offices at night when she had once been destined for so much more? 2 days later, fate, or maybe Nathaniel's determination, brought them face to face again. Monica was emptying trash bins in the executive wing when Nathaniel stepped out of his office. Their eyes locked. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Nathaniel said, "You surprised me the other day." Monica didn't look up from tying the trash bag. "I'm sure I won't again. Excuse me." "Wait." His voice was firm, accustomed to command. "Why didn't you say anything before about what you can do?" She straightened, her jaw set. "Because people don't care. They see a uniform, a mop, and they stop looking." "That's not true," Nathaniel countered, though he knew it was. He'd been guilty of it himself. "It is," Monica said softly, meeting his eyes. "You mocked me before you even knew my name." The words stung because they were true. Nathaniel, who prided himself on control, felt the ground shift beneath him. He wasn't used to being challenged, least of all by someone who refused to be intimidated. "I owe you," he said finally. "If it weren't for you, I would have lost something important." Monica shook her head. "You don't owe me anything." But when she turned to leave, Nathaniel caught a glimpse of something in her eyes: weariness, the kind that came from years of carrying too much. That weekend, Nathaniel found himself at a local coffee shop, not his usual 5-star lounge, but a modest cafe near Midtown. He wasn't there for the coffee. He was there because he'd heard Monica came by after shifts, sometimes with her son. Sure enough, she appeared, holding Mateo's hand. The boy's eyes lit up as he pressed his face to the glass display of pastries. "Can we, Mom, please?" he begged. Monica sighed, counting the bills in her wallet. She hesitated, then nodded. "1 chocolate croissant, we'll split it." Mateo clapped his hands in triumph. From the corner booth, Nathaniel watched, something tightening in his chest. This wasn't the cold, guarded woman from the office. This was a mother who sacrificed every comfort for her child. When Monica finally noticed him, her expression darkened. "Are you following me now?" "I didn't mean to intrude," Nathaniel said, rising. "I just wanted to talk." "About what?" she asked sharply, pulling Mateo closer. Nathaniel glanced at the boy, then back at her. "About why someone with your skills is working nights cleaning my offices." Monica's face hardened, but her voice cracked. "Because life doesn't care about degrees, because therapy costs more than dreams, because my son deserves better, and this is how I give it to him." Nathaniel was silent. He wanted to say something, anything, but no words seemed enough. Mateo tugged at his mother's sleeve. "Mom, is he bothering you?" Monica knelt and kissed his forehead. "No, my Amor, he's just leaving." And with that, she turned her back on Nathaniel Hawthorne, billionaire CEO, as if he were nothing more than a shadow in her way. That night, lying awake in his penthouse overlooking the glittering skyline, Nathaniel finally admitted what had been gnawing at him since their first encounter. Monica Bryant wasn't ordinary. She was extraordinary. And she was hiding secrets the world had ignored for far too long. For the first time in his life, Nathaniel Hawthorne wanted to know someone, not for what they could offer him, not for their power or connections, but for the mystery they carried and the fire that refused to die out. The storm began quietly. At first, it was nothing more than whispers in the hallways of Hawthorne Tower. A few executives making side comments, assistants exchanging gossip by the elevators. But whispers grow teeth when they come from powerful mouths. By midweek, Monica Bryant's name was circulating in hushed tones across the company, not as the woman who had saved Nathaniel's inheritance. No, now she was being painted as a fraud, a manipulator, someone who had tricked her way into the CEO's good graces. Nathaniel was reviewing quarterly reports when Marissa stepped into his office, her face tense. "Sir, you should see this." She placed a sleek tablet on his desk. On the screen, a news article blazed across a corporate blog. "Janitor or con artist? The mysterious woman behind Hawthorne's inheritance windfall." Nathaniel's jaw tightened. The article suggested Monica had somehow planted the documents, that her sudden appearance in the boardroom wasn't chance but manipulation. Worse, it hinted at an inappropriate relationship between Nathaniel and the cleaning lady. "This is garbage," Nathaniel growled. Marissa shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, the board is already talking." Nathaniel slammed the tablet shut. "Of course they are. Cowards, every one of them." Monica found out the next morning. She was wiping down the glass doors of the lobby when two interns walked past, not bothering to lower their voices. "Did you see the article? Total scam artist. Can't believe Mr. Hawthorne fell for her act." Monica froze, the rag in her hand trembling. "She probably slept her way into that boardroom," the other muttered. The sting hit deep, but Monica pressed her lips together and kept scrubbing. She'd survived worse. Gossip in a rich man's tower wasn't going to break her. Still, when she caught her reflection in the glass, her chest tightened. The uniform, the tired eyes, the weary posture, it all fed the narrative that she was less than what she truly was. That night in the cramped kitchen of her apartment, she sat with Mrs. Delgado, her elderly neighbor. The woman poured her tea with care, her wrinkled hands steady. "They don't know you, Mija, Mrs. Delgado said firmly. "Let them talk. A lion doesn't lose sleep over the opinion of sheep." Monica gave a weak laugh. "I wish I believed that." "You do believe it," the woman insisted. Otherwise, you wouldn't still be standing. Mateo padded into the room, clutching his stuffed bear. "Mom, why are you sad?" Monica pulled him into her arms, forcing a smile. "I'm not sad, sweetheart, I'm just thinking." But inside, she felt the crushing weight of every rumor, every judgment, every wall she had to climb alone. 2 days later, during a tense board meeting, Richard Hayes, a senior executive with too much ego and too little talent, cleared his throat. "Mr. Hawthorne," he began smoothly, "with all due respect, your association with MS. Bryant is beginning to damage the company's reputation. Investors are calling, they're questioning your judgment." Nathaniel's eyes darkened. "My judgment?" Richard leaned back smug. "She's a liability. A woman with no credentials, no status. There are allegations she orchestrated the inheritance stunt. Perhaps it's time to cut ties." The words hung heavy in the air. Everyone waited for Nathaniel to agree to throw Monica under the bus. Instead, he rose slowly, his presence filling the room. "Listen carefully," he said, his voice low but lethal. "Monica Bryant saved this company from losing millions. Not one of you could do what she did. She is more valuable than every so-called consultant you've paid 6 figures to. If any of you think you can disrespect her, you'll answer to me." The room fell silent. Richard shifted uncomfortably, his smirk wiped clean. Marissa caught Monica in the hallway later, relaying what had happened. Monica listened, stunned. Nathaniel Hawthorne had defended her publicly. That evening, Nathaniel appeared at the small cafe again. Monica was already there with Mateo, helping him with homework. "You shouldn't be here," she said flatly when he approached. Nathaniel ignored the warning, pulling out the chair across from her. "They're trying to destroy you. I won't let them." Her eyes narrowed. Why risk your reputation for me?" "Because you don't deserve this," he said, leaning closer. His voice dropped, softer now. "Because I've never met anyone like you." For a long moment, their eyes locked. Monica's defenses wavered, her breath catching. She wanted to believe him, to trust that his words weren't just pity wrapped in charm. But then Mateo spoke, breaking the spell. "Mom, can he stay for dinner?" Monica blinked, pulling back sharply. "No, Mateo, Mr. Hawthorne has other places to be." Nathaniel forced a small smile. "Actually, I don't." Mateo beamed. Monica's heart, however, pounded with conflict. Allowing Nathaniel into her world, into her son's life, was a temptation she couldn't afford. Later that night, Monica checked her phone. Another article had appeared online, from janitor to mistress, inside Hawthorne's scandal. Her hands trembled as she read the words. They were relentless, tearing apart her reputation, her dignity, even dragging Mateo's name into the mud. Tears blurred her vision. She pressed her forehead against the cool window pane of her apartment, whispering to herself, "This can't go on. I can't let them ruin us." Behind her, Mateo stirred in his sleep. She tucked him in, brushing a kiss across his forehead. But in her chest, a storm raged louder than ever. And in Hawthorne Tower, Nathaniel sat at his desk long past midnight, staring at Monica's name on his phone. His hand hovering, torn between the lines he shouldn't cross, and the temptation pulling him closer every second. Rain fell hard against the glass walls of Hawthorne Tower, streaking the skyline in silver lines. The storm outside was nothing compared to the storm inside. It began with a knock on the executive boardroom doors. 2 men in dark suits entered, their badges flashing. Agents Davis and Chen, Federal Bureau of Investigation, one of them announced, "We need to speak with Nathaniel Hawthorne and a MS, Monica Bryant, immediately." The room froze. Executives exchanged alarmed glances. Richard Hayes smirked, the corner of his mouth curling as if he had been waiting for this moment. Nathaniel's jaw tightened. On what grounds? Agent Davis slid a folder across the table. Hawthorne Imports is under federal investigation for suspected ties to international fraud. MS. Bryant has been named a potential witness. Monica's breath caught. She had been cleaning glass doors down the hall when they called her in. Standing there, still in her pale blue uniform, she looked completely out of place among the tailored suits and polished shoes. "Me," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Yes, ma'am," Agent Chen said firmly. "We have reason to believe you possess information connected to the matter." Every eye in the room turned on her, some full of suspicion, others with poorly hidden contempt. Nathaniel's voice cut through the silence. "She's not going anywhere without me." 2 hours later, Nathaniel and Monica sat across from the agents in a stark government office downtown. A tape recorder clicked on. "MS. Bryant," Agent Davis began, "we have records showing you previously worked as a translator at Meridian Global, the company now at the center of these corruption allegations. Is that correct?" Monica's hands shook slightly. "Yes, years ago, before everything." "Before what?" Her eyes dropped. Memories she had buried clawed their way back. Threats, the phone calls. The night she found a strange car idling outside her apartment, the way her boss told her to stay quiet or lose everything. "Before I realized the truth," she said softly, "Meridian was laundering money through international contracts. I kept evidence, notes, recordings, but I ran. I had to protect my son." Nathaniel turned sharply toward her. "You never told me this." "I couldn't," Monica whispered, shame flickering in her voice. "You wouldn't have believed me." Agent Chen leaned forward. "Do you still have this evidence?" Monica hesitated. "Maybe. Some of it. I left things behind when I moved to Chicago, but I remember names, numbers, transactions, enough to prove what they did." While the FBI processed her statement, chaos erupted at Hawthorne Tower. The board convened an emergency meeting without Nathaniel present. Richard Hayes stood at the head of the table, his tone smug. "Gentlemen, this is exactly what I warned you about. Hawthorne's reckless involvement with this woman has put us all at risk. Federal agents in our offices, witnesses in janitor uniforms. Investors are panicking. We need to act now." Sandra Walsh, the CFO, frowned. "Act how?" "Remove him," Richard said coldly. "Strip Nathaniel Hawthorne of his authority until this matter is resolved. The company cannot be run by a man compromised by personal entanglements." There was murmured agreement. A few voices protested, but fear was stronger than loyalty. Within an hour, the board had voted. Nathaniel was suspended pending investigation. That night, Monica returned to her apartment shaken. Mrs. Delgado was waiting in the hallway, concern etched across her wrinkled face. "Media men in suits came by earlier," she whispered. "Neighbors are talking. They think you're in trouble." Monica swallowed hard. "I guess I am." Inside, Mateo clung to her waist. "Mom, why were the police here? Did you do something bad?" "No, sweetheart." She kissed his forehead, forcing her voice to stay calm. "I just told the truth. Sometimes telling the truth scares people." Meanwhile, Nathaniel stormed into his penthouse, rage burning through him. He had been betrayed not by Monica but by his own board. Men he had built the company with, men he had trusted. Marissa appeared at his door, pale and hesitant. "They've already issued the statement, sir. Effective immediately, you're suspended as CEO. Richard Hayes will act as interim." Nathaniel's fists clenched. "Over my dead body." "Nathaniel," she whispered, They're using Monica as their weapon. They're painting her as the reason for everything. He turned toward the window, the city sprawling below. For years he had believed money was power. Now he saw the truth. Fear was power, and they were using fear to take everything from him. At midnight his phone buzzed. It was Monica. Her voice trembled through the line. "I didn't mean for this to happen," she said. "They are destroying you because of me." "No," Nathaniel said firmly. "They're destroying me because they are cowards. Because you told the truth. Don't blame yourself. But your company, your life." "Monica." His voice softened, breaking through the steel. "I don't care about the company. I care about you and your son. Whatever happens next, we face it together." For a long moment there was only silence on the line. Then Monica whispered, "You don't know what that means to me." Nathaniel closed his eyes, the city lights blurring in the distance. He knew exactly what it meant. It meant the battle had only just begun. The news broke before dawn. Every major financial outlet carried the headline. Hawthorne suspended amid federal investigation. Interim CEO named. Photographs of Nathaniel leaving his tower, his jaw set and eyes burning with anger, spread across the internet like wildfire. Commentators speculated, investors panicked, and Richard Hayes basked in the spotlight like a man who had been waiting his whole life for this moment. Monica read the headlines from her kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a chipped mug of coffee that had long gone cold. Across from her, Mateo ate cereal, humming softly to himself, unaware of the chaos. Her phone buzzed. It was Nathaniel. "Monica," his voice cracked, rough with exhaustion. "They've taken everything." Her heart squeezed. "Nathaniel, I'm so sorry." "Don't," he said quickly. "This isn't your fault." But Monica knew better. She knew exactly whose name was being dragged through the mud alongside his. That night, Monica sat alone by the window, watching the streetlights flicker. Mrs. Delgado knocked gently before letting herself in, carrying a plate of empanadas. "You've lost weight," the older woman scolded softly. "You need to eat." "I'm not hungry." Mrs. Delgado set the plate down anyway. "I hear them talking, Mija. They're blaming you for this man's downfall." Monica looked away, her voice trembling. "Because it's true. If I walk away, maybe they'll stop." The neighbor shook her head. "You think sacrificing yourself will protect him. Sometimes sacrifice is just letting the wolves know they've won." But Monica wasn't convinced. The image of Nathaniel, furious, betrayed, yet still defending her, burned in her mind. She couldn't let his life's work be destroyed because of her presence. She whispered to herself, "I have to leave." The next morning, Monica met Nathaniel outside the courthouse. Rain fell softly, soaking her thin jacket. He reached for her, but she stepped back. "Monica, what are you doing?" he asked, panic flickering in his eyes. "This is the only way," she said firmly. "If I disappear, if I stop being a distraction, maybe they'll give you back your company." His voice hardened. Don't you dare take the blame for their lies." "I'm not taking the blame, I'm taking myself out of the equation," she whispered. "You don't need me dragging you down, you deserve better." Nathaniel grabbed her shoulders. "Look at me. I don't want better, I want you, don't you get it? You and Mateo, you're the only thing that makes any of this mean something." Her eyes filled with tears. She leaned forward, pressed her forehead against his chest, and whispered, "That's why I have to go." Before he could stop her, she pulled away and walked into the rain, her figure blurring until she vanished completely. Days bled into nights. Nathaniel tried to fight, but without Monica's testimony, the FBI case slowed. Richard Hayes tightened his grip on the company, smiling for the cameras, shaking hands with investors. In the privacy of his penthouse, Nathaniel unraveled. He drank too much, slept too little, and stared at the empty space on his couch where Monica had once sat with Mateo, laughing over homework. Marissa found him one evening, the skyline glowing behind him. "Sir, you can't keep doing this to yourself." "She left because of me," Nathaniel muttered, his voice hollow. "She left because she thought she was protecting you," Marissa corrected. Then softer, "Maybe it's time you ask what she was protecting you from." A week later, Monica was packing boxes in her apartment. Mateo built towers of Legos on the floor, humming his favorite tune. As she lifted a stack of books, something slipped from the shelf and landed with a thud. A worn cardboard box. Her breath caught. She hadn't seen it in years. Inside were flash drives, notebooks, and CDs she thought she had lost forever, the very evidence she had once collected at Meridian Global. Her hands shook as she flipped through the contents. Dates, transactions, recordings of threatening calls, proof, all of it. Mrs. Delgado, hearing the noise, appeared at the door. "What is it?" Monica's eyes filled with tears. "It's everything, everything they did. I thought it was gone." The older woman crossed herself. "Then God himself put it back in your hands. Now, what will you do with it?" 2 days later, in a packed courtroom, Monica walked to the witness stand. The air buzzed with tension. Richard Hayes sat stiffly at the defense table, his smug expression faltering as soon as he saw her. "State your name," the prosecutor said. "Monica Bryant," she replied, steady now, her voice echoing. "And your relation to Meridian Global." "I was their translator, and I kept records that prove exactly how they laundered money through contracts with Hawthorne Imports." Gasps rippled through the room. Nathaniel, seated behind her, clenched his fists, not in anger but in awe. She hadn't run, she had come back. The prosecutor held up a flash drive. "Your Honor, this contains recordings, documents, and financial data provided by M.S. Bryant." Richard's face drained of color. Monica looked across the room at Nathaniel. Their eyes met, and for the first time in weeks he smiled. Not with triumph, but with gratitude and something deeper, something unspoken. The evidence shattered the board's narrative. Media outlets flipped their coverage overnight. Hawthorne cleared, former employee exposes international fraud ring. Investors demanded Richard's resignation. The FBI announced charges against Meridian executives. Nathaniel was reinstated within 24 hours, but none of it mattered to him as much as the woman who had made it possible. That evening, he found Monica outside the courthouse, waiting nervously with Mateo's hand in hers. "You shouldn't have come back," he said softly, though his eyes told a different story. "I couldn't let them destroy you," Monica whispered. "Not when I had the truth all along." Nathaniel stepped closer, his voice rough. "You didn't just save me, you saved us." For the first time, Monica let herself believe it. The boardroom looked different now. Gone was the tension, the whispered suspicions, the predatory smirks of men like Richard Hayes. He had resigned in disgrace, escorted out of Hawthorne Tower with cameras capturing his every step. Nathaniel Hawthorne sat at the head of the table again, restored as CEO. But this time his demeanor was different, less sharp around the edges, less distant. For once, he wasn't looking at the balance sheets spread across the glossy table. He was watching Monica Bryant at the opposite end of the room. She wasn't in a cleaning uniform anymore. She wore a fitted blazer, her hair swept into a confident braid. The nameplate in front of her read, Director of International Relations. Monica spoke with calm authority, her accent smooth but firm. "We've regained the trust of 3 major European partners. They specifically noted our transparency after the investigation. If we continue to rebuild with integrity, we'll not only recover what we lost, we'll grow stronger than before. The executives nodded, scribbling notes. Nathaniel smiled faintly, pride swelling in his chest. She wasn't just saving him anymore, she was shaping the company itself. That afternoon, Nathaniel accompanied Monica to pick up Mateo from his new school. The boy came running across the courtyard, his backpack bouncing. "Mom, Mr. Hawthorne, guess what?" he shouted, waving a paper. "I got an A in math." Monica knelt, hugging him tight. "I knew you could do it, my Ammer." Nathaniel ruffled the boy's hair. "Smart kid, you'll be running companies before I know it." Mateo grinned proudly. "Can I build skyscrapers too?" Nathaniel chuckled. "Anything you want." The school counselor, a kind woman with glasses, approached Monica quietly. "He's thriving here. The therapies, the environment, it's all making a difference. You should be proud." Monica's eyes misted. For so long she had fought to give Mateo a future. And now, for the first time, she saw that future unfolding in front of her. Later that evening, Nathaniel and Monica stood on the rooftop of Hawthorne Tower. The city stretched out in every direction, glowing under a velvet sky. "I used to think success meant standing up here alone," Nathaniel admitted, his hands resting on the railing, looking down at the world and knowing it was mine. Monica turned to him, her expression soft. "And now?" He looked at her, his voice low. "Now I know it means nothing if you're not standing here with me." Her chest tightened. For weeks she had resisted, convinced their worlds could never merge. But in that moment, with the city lights reflecting in his eyes, she knew the truth. She loved him. "Nathaniel," she whispered, "you don't know what you're asking." "Yes, I do." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Monica gasped. "You can't be serious." "I've never been more serious," he said. "Monica Bryant, will you marry me?" Her heart pounded. Behind them, the wind whipped through the night, carrying the sounds of the city below. And for once she allowed herself to dream. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes." Weeks later, the rooftop was transformed. White and gold flowers draped over archways. String lights twinkled above rows of elegant chairs. A string quartet played softly, the music floating across the evening air. Guests filled the space, executives, friends, neighbors, even Mrs. Delgado, who dabbed her eyes with a handkerchief and whispered, "She deserves this happiness." Mateo walked proudly down the aisle, carrying a small velvet pillow with the rings. The crowd melted at the sight of his wide grin. And then Monica appeared. She wore a gown of flowing ivory silk, simple yet breathtaking. Her hair cascaded in soft waves, her eyes glowing with both nervousness and joy. Nathaniel stood at the altar, dressed in a flawless tuxedo, his gaze never leaving hers. When she reached him, he took her hands and whispered, "You're my courage." "And you're my home," she whispered back. The officiant's words blurred into the background. For them, the world had narrowed to this one moment, this promise. When Nathaniel slipped the ring onto her finger and kissed her, the rooftop erupted in applause. Fireworks exploded in the distance, painting the sky in brilliant colors. Later, as the celebration carried on, Nathaniel led Monica to the dance floor. The orchestra began to play a slow, haunting melody. "You know," Nathaniel said as they swayed, "I was terrified the first time I saw you." Monica laughed softly. "Terrified? Of me?" "Yes," he said with a smile. "Because you weren't afraid of me. Everyone else bows, but you looked me in the eye and told me the truth. And I realized I didn't want to be the man they all feared. I wanted to be the man you respected." Her eyes shimmered with tears. "You are more than you know." They danced in silence, the city their witness. As the night drew to a close, Monica stood by the railing with Mateo, pointing out constellations. Nathaniel watched them, a warmth in his chest he had never known. For years he had been haunted by loneliness, by wounds he never admitted. But now, with Monica and Mateo by his side, he finally felt whole. He slipped his arm around Monica's waist and whispered, "This is just the beginning." She leaned into him, smiling. "Then let's make it a good one." And as the rooftop glowed with music, laughter, and love, the city below bore witness to something rare and beautiful. A healing not just of two people, but of a family. Looking back at this story, I realized something important. In life, we are often judged by appearances, by status, or by the mistakes of our past. But true worth is revealed through courage, integrity, and the willingness to stand for what is right, even when the world doubts us. I have learned that love and respect are not built on wealth or titles, but on compassion and the strength to believe in one another. And maybe that's a question we all need to ask ourselves. How often do we overlook the hidden strength in those around us? How often do we dismiss someone without knowing the battles they've already fought? If you find this story meaningful and want to help us share these important values, please subscribe to our channel so you won't miss the next inspiring story. Together, we can build a strong community full of potential and a spirit of justice.